Cured Madness, thing for the 2. Missed the old AC combat, had so much more style. It was basically glowing with style, I will give you that. The old style was what was called a paired animation combat system. So basically, like in really simple terms, it was a rock, paper, scissors combat system where when the conditions were met properly and you would win the exchange, X animation would play out. And so it wasn't as free form and tight as what you feel now. Like now you press the R1 button, you swing the weapon, you make contact. If you hit the hitbox, it deals damage and it reflects on the health bar, right? After it does the armor calculations and all that. But with the paired animation system, it was like, oh, they're coming to attack. I press B to parry. And then you can like set the controller down for a solid 3 seconds while it does the animations and stuff. And it made it so there were some really cool animations that would play out when you were fighting people with like backflips and like special finishers and stuff that were really crazy. Like just go back and look at some of the finishers for AC Syndicate. Some of those finishers were insane. AC Syndicate finishers. Oh, that was loud. That was loud. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, some of these finishers were insane. But it's because once you met those conditions and you did the parry or you do the finisher move once their health is low enough, it would just pair the characters and it would deal the damage. I know I just deafened multiple people. I'm so sorry. How was I supposed to know he was gonna have the volume on 1,000? But like, this is something you just don't really get nowadays because the combat systems just don't work this way. They're not about paired animations. They're about hitboxes. Oh, I wonder if there is a way to, oh God, dude, you see that? Just think of like the dynamic stuff they had to program for like, if the NPC is close to a ledge, Eevee can identify that ledge, shove the dagger into their hand to hold it, and then flip them around and do that. Man, where's the blood? You sicko. You sicko.
That's most definitely what's up.
No, Josh, it's not what's up. Sicko. No, a lot of these older games, they didn't have the same blood effects we think of today. There's also, this is something I only really learned a lot about when I went to Quebec for AC Shadows, because I asked them, is there enemy detection of like severed heads, limbs, or blood? Because like you can kill people in Shadows, then leaves a puddle of blood, you pick up the body, you move the body and hide it in bushes or something. And so I asked, like, can enemies find the blood puddle and react to it? And he said, we experimented with it, we looked at it, but we couldn't do it because we have to have gore like toggles and settings. And it's like, oh, and so we talked about it, me and the gameplay designer, for a minute. And he was basically like, yeah, across the globe, there are certain countries that do not allow for like excessive gore unless it's a specific rating. But if it's a specific rating, it can't be sold in certain stores. Think of like the you know, adults only rating. If you hit an adults only rating, you're not going to be for sale in Walmart or in you know, Target or Best Buy. They're just not going to sell your game. And so in certain countries, especially in Europe, and I think Australia has problems with this too, they have to have toggles and settings to turn that off or have it off by default in the menus and stuff. And so for them to build the system out to have like enemy AI detecting blood puddles for certain countries and not others, it just wouldn't really make sense. So they ended up just not doing it, which it makes sense. But yeah, some of these finishers, dude, were brutal. Absolutely crazy. But at the time, back in 2015, when this game came out, people complained about the combat system. So it is glowing with style, but you know, with our modern perspective, we might look back on it and be like, wow, this looks so smooth. At the time, people were just complaining about it. So they changed it with AC Origins 2 years later. It's still weird to me to think that Origins was only 2 years later. Like that really is not that much time between the two games, but it was a huge leap. It's crazy. Dude, some of these finishers are just brutal.